The red-haired teenager has not been seen since mid-November 1991. She has not used her bank accounts or contacted friends.
This person has got away with murder for 30 years now. He will strike again. It will happen, and the next time it's going to be your family. It's going to be someone close to you.
I'm in the remote township of Fitzgerald in the Derwent Valley, where for the past 30 years, Tasmanians have wondered what happened to the red-haired, freckled teenage girl who vanished into the night. If the 14-year-old met with foul play, her killer remains at large and could still be living in the area. And while police investigations are ongoing, the question remains, will we ever know what happened to Eve Askew?
We believe she's deceased, and we just need to clarify the circumstances around her death.
People say, well, who did it, why, and you know, but I think it sort of just gets more intriguing as it goes along.
And I just think it's strange that nothing's ever been found from her. Like nothing, it's like she never existed.
Our ultimate goal is to recover the remains of Eve and have some answers for the family.
The Askews moved to Tasmania to escape the hustle and bustle of New South Wales, but any peace the family found in Tasmania would be short-lived.
We didn't even lock our doors, you know, because we'd never even comprehend anything that sinister happening into our family.
Jacob says their home used to be cheerful and full of laughter, but when Eve disappeared, the laughter disappeared as well.
My parents looked like they were heartbroken constantly. My mum would walk the streets, you know, in hope of finding someone or bumping into Eve.
And Eve's classmates have been left to wonder what happened to the student who vanished before finishing 8th grade.
And I think because she was quiet and shy, some of the kids targeted her, picked on her.
Like beyond quiet, they're shy, and then there was Eve, and I just remember she would walk down the hallways at school with her jumper over her hands, hair over her face, like as close to the wall as she could be, just to avoid, I think, people even noticing her.
At the time of her disappearance, Eve's family described her as being a shy and reserved person who would avoid meeting new people.
For someone that doesn't know much about Eve, her personality, how would you describe her?
That's a difficult question. Look, I'd have to say, well, I'd actually have to say outgoing, maybe risk-taking.
She got caught with cigarettes in her bag just before she disappeared, but that was the extent of it. You know, she liked bushwalking and things like that, but I don't know where the risk-taking behaviour has come from.
They clearly didn't want her to be smoking as a 14-year-old, and while she denied it, she was nonetheless grounded for that period because they were of the belief she was smoking. And in fact, I don't think it's speaking out of turn, her diary entries would suggest that she, in fact, had been smoking.
They released a picture of what Eve would look like as an adult if she were alive.
This was Eve's home. The last time the family saw her was a fairly regular Saturday night. Eve's parents went to a church meeting and she was left at home with her 2 brothers. The boys stayed up late watching a movie while Eve was in her bedroom listening to the New Kids on the Block record on repeat. She came out of her room occasionally for a snack or a drink and seemed to be in a really good mood. When Mr. and Mrs. Askew arrived home that night, they assumed all the kids were in bed asleep. And it wasn't until the next morning, when Eve's mother went to wake her, that the family realised she was gone.
The initial thought was that Eve was a missing person, that Eve had voluntarily left the address, that there weren't any signs of a struggle, or signs of violence.
I remember thinking, wow, she's actually run away. Where's she gone? Where's she gone? No one would really thought that anything had happened to her other than that she had run away.
When Eve was first reported missing, members of the public called police to report sightings of her in New Norfolk, Glenorchy and the Hobart area. Police have never been able to verify that Eve was definitely at any of those locations at a particular time.
So if she's running away, where's she running to? What's she doing from all the way at Fitzgerald? And if she had a ride organised, how did she meet them and get talking and chatty to them? Because we went to school with her for nearly a year and she hardly spoke to any of us.
Did Eve go onto the road and was walking on the road and get hit by a car? That's a possibility. Did Eve run away to go into the bush on the belief that she was heading in a certain direction and got lost and died as a result of misadventure?
Sadly, Eve's parents died in a car crash in 1996, without the answers they'd been searching for.
Whenever we went out anywhere, the only thing that was on their minds was looking for Eve. As soon as they saw someone with slight red hair, you know, they'd go up to them and check them out to see if it was Eve. So it was like, it was devastating.
Were their family ever considered suspects?
Look, there are... I won't answer that on the grounds that at this point in time, the matter remains open. So again, we won't close our mind to any scenario. What I'll say is that the evidence doesn't exist that would suggest the involvement of her family to substantiate any charges.
The case was reopened in 2001. A tip-off led forensic officers back to the family property. Sifting through tons of earth, they combed the yard for her remains.
The only bones located in 4 separate plots around the old Askew home were chicken bones.
The lead came from a man who was in custody. Clearly frustrated by the lack of progress, police brought him to the property. They didn't confirm reports that he may be involved in the teenager's disappearance.
We can make some further inquiries with the person who gave us the information, but at this stage we've concluded our investigation here.
The case then passed on to Colin Riley, who was the detective inspector that had watch over the investigation. He reopened it in 2012 after a new lead.
And it led to a whole lot of investigative actions, including listening devices, searches of properties, and also digging up of suspected grave sites.
Police believed evidence to solve the 30-year-old mystery was buried at a property in Karanja, about a 20-minute drive from Eve's family home. It was previously owned by a man who would now be in his late 60s.
The man befriended 14-year-old Eve Askew in the months before she disappeared from her family home near Medina in November 1990.
About 35 police officers and forensic experts searched the property and the adjoining block at Karanja, as well as the man's home on an isolated property near Bushy Park. The focus was on a septic tank. It was dug out and the earth underneath it searched.
Over the last 36 hours, we've detected things that we believe possibly can be used as evidence in court.
The man was arrested and later released without charge.
But just to clarify, he is still a person of interest in the disappearance of Eve Askew.
That's correct.
When we look at the man that was arrested and released, and you spoke about Eve having meetups with people, did she ever meet up with that man prior to her disappearance?
I can't recall.
Because it sounds like Eve was going to run away and she thought she had someone to help her, but they didn't help her. And that's just... It's horrendous that someone would do that and never be held to account, and no one will ever know what happened to her.
And if Eve did meet with foul play, the question remains as to why.
There could be a whole raft of motivations that sit behind that. There could be jealousy, there could be anger, there could be sexual gratification.
There's a $500,000 reward for information that leads to a conviction for the death or disappearance of Eve. Police say it's life-changing money.
We've had a couple of disappearances that stand out in the Tasmanian psyche, and this is one of them. So to resolve this matter would be very, very calming for the Askew family, but also I think for the broader Tasmanian community.
There's someone out there that's sitting on information and they shouldn't be, and we're not talking about ratting someone out for a burglary. We're talking about someone that could be dead at 14, that she deserves, a bit of respect.
For the past 3 decades, Jacob Askew's been seeking justice for his sister. He just wants to know the truth.
Is if there's anyone out there with information about my sister, I have no harsh judgments against you. I have no ill will against you. But I do say this, it's been 30 years and it's time for Eve to get justice.
Eve's hometown is surrounded by rugged mountains and forests that seem to never end. If she's dead, her body could be buried or hidden anywhere. And without information from people who know what happened, we may never find her. The next step will be a coronial investigation, but police continue to plead with members of the public for new information. So if you know anything, come forward, as it could be the missing piece of the puzzle to solve this mystery 30 years on. April McLennan, ABC News.